folks, welcome to another Acme Machining. Just finished up doing the tailstock locking cam modification. So, going to see how that works. But while I'm working on the tailstock, I figured I would do something else. So I'm just... Okay, this here tailstock, it's got 4 inches of travel, supposedly. The only problem is, I'll wind it back here to 0, and this is a live center that came with the King lathe. It doesn't go in. I have to crank this out to 1 inch. So right there at about 3/4 of an inch, it pops out loose. Okay. Now, drill chuck that came with it, and it pops it out at about the 3/4 mark. No tail on this. Okay. Now, as soon as I go to one with a tail on the end of the MT3, it pops out at about we're popping out. Just let me jam that in there good so I can get a better feel for it. Just under 1/300. Okay, so really when I'm going from 1/300 to 4, I've only got 2.7 inches of travel, not 4 inches of travel. 4 inches isn't a whole lot to start with, but it gets to be a pain. So what I want to do is, I've already got this loosened up on the bottom here. I'm going to take this brass threaded section out, and I'm going to put a spacer in between the actual tailstock steel and the brass thread. So I want to put a 1.3 inch spacer or a 1.5 inch spacer in there. So just going to see what I've got. I'm going to do it with whatever I've got running around here in stock. So rather than making a new brass piece and having to thread it left hand Acme, I'm just going to put a spacer on there and a little longer bolts. It'll do just fine because it'll still be in its 0 to 4 travel range that it's supposed to have. So also what I'm going to have to do is handheld here for a minute. When I make this 1.3 inches or 1.5 inches longer, I need to bring this out the same. So there's 4 bolt holes here. I'm going to take those bolts out, and I'm going to take the block off the end, and we're going to put a spacer block in here. No, it's not going to be made out of 2x4, but it's going to be a spacer in here, like so. So I'm going to see what I got in stock. I need a fairly good piece there. I don't have my, yes I do have my ruler here. That's 2.5 by 2.5, so go across the diagonals. I'm looking at a piece of 3.5 inch round or 2.5 inch square. So I'm going to go see what I got, and we'll take this off the tailstock and we'll see you over the bench. Okay, so I'm just going to take this brass threaded piece off. And I'm going to relocate this. Out to about here. A piece of 3.5 aluminum that I can cut the 2.5-inch square out of. And we'll fix it up for this end of the equation. I'm going to start with the spacer for here first. First thing we're going to do, I had to put the tailstock all back together because I need to drill some holes here on the lathe. So, of course, that's the fun part. But I'm going to try to set this up with the dial indicator because the last video I just finished doing the lock for the tailstock. So I'm hoping I'm going right in with a 9/16. I know I'm only drilling into aluminum, but I got just a starter hole and no pilot, and I'm just going to go right in and see if I can get this zeroed up here for you folks. And hopefully I don't hit that on the first revolution, but I've got to bore into this for a couple inches, and I'm going to see if I push my tailstock back. So let's get going. That's 1 inch, and it hasn't been pre-drilled. And my tailstock is not moving on me. I'm quite happy with that modification I made to the tailstock locking cam. If you haven't seen that, please go back, check out that video. What I got to do is I got to bore a recess in the end of this. I am going 300 deep, and I'm going to bore that out to 1.569 or thereabouts. I'll get closer on the measurements as I get in there. But what I've got is I've got my dial indicator set up down here. Now you guys aren't going to be able to see that very good for the glare, and I can't hold my hand there and get hit by the truck, so sorry about that. But you will be able to see that make 3 rotations, and that'll give me my 300th depth. So there's 2. There's 3. Poor man's DRO. I just cut it off short, and then I run it in by hand. 1 revolution, 2 revolutions, had to feed the last 4,000 or 5,000 by hand. So now I've got this recess done. It ended up at 1.571 or 1.571. and it's 300 deep, as you've seen on the poor man's DRO, my dial indicator. And that is to take this here protrusion so that that's going to fit in. Now this is a little bit bigger than the 1 inch, so my next step is I'm going to bore that out to accommodate up to about this point here. So I'm just going to bore in another 3/4 of an inch probably, and it'll be big enough to set that, and then I can bury that right in there 100%. So I'm not going to bore you with the details on that. I'll show you a little bit of it, but that's our next step. We need to come out just 50 thou, so 25 thou cut, and I'm going 600 deep. So one, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. There's what we needed to achieve, folks. So in the mill, I'm going to take and I'm going to square this up because the back of the tailstock is square. So I'm going to square this off, and it'll be in just a nice square spacer. I guess that's all I can call it, is a spacer. But I've got a nice firm fit in there. Now I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to part it off, because what I'm going to do is I am going to put something similar to this protrusion out the other side, just so it sets in the tailstock well. So I'm going to part this off to 1 3/4 inch, because I want to have an 1.5 inch spacer in here. So okay, I'm getting ready to part this off. Now, what I do is I just run that in there up against the workpiece, and I loosen it off, and I just hold it right tight up against the workpiece. I am looking at this area right here, so that puts the parting blade in perfect alignment with the work. And I want 175 for my width. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a small cut right there, measure it, bring my poor man's DRO in, and adjust from there. So also, you can lock your apron. Most lathes have a provision to lock the apron. That's mine. It's just got a little finger that comes up underneath, and that locks that in. So over to the workpiece we go. Give it a little bit of juice. I'm going to measure where we are. We're at 1892. So bring my poor man's DRO in. back this off. Just going to bring it in 120 and lock the apron and give it another mark. And I can come out 5/1000ths. A little bit of WD-40. Should be just about there, folks. There we go. I don't want to touch that, I bet you it's warm. So now what we got to do is we've got to make that protrusion here, and it's going to be 1 5/8 because I just measured the end of the tailstock there to see what it is. So we're going to bore in about that far, and we're going to bring it in until this here is at 1.5 inches right in this direction. Okay, so we're just coming in 1/4 inch, and that's going to leave us 1.5 inch spacer up top here. So let's get started. Taking a 1/4 inch per cut. It's an 1/8 inch cut, but 1/4 inch total side to side. some tooling that's made for a lot bigger lathe. Take a measurement, make sure that I'm not getting too close. This cut will get me in close enough that I'll be able to dial it in for a final cut. Like that last cut, so I'm just doing a skim cut. There, we're going to have 10 thou left we can take off of there. And we're at 1.744. So I need to take off 80. So I'll do it in a couple steps. Just going to go down to a 40 thou cut and see where that brings me. .707. So I've still got about 80 to come off. So. Just slowing my cuts down because I want to, I can't be taking huge cuts. Because there is some deflection involved when I'm taking all these huge cuts, so I got to get myself slowed down to my smaller cuts. And right now I need to take 41 thou off, so I'll just roll it in another. It doesn't matter if I got a little bit of clearance in there. There, 1 thou clearance. No, what am I talking about? I'm still 20 thou tight. Because I need 6 25, not 50. So I'll come in another 22. There on the thou bag. And what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to take that thou right now because I've got 10 thou I want to take off this face. So I'm going to come back, I'm going to hand feed in, and then when I hit here, I'll feed out. And that'll just skim this ever so lightly, and I bet you that'll give me my 1 thou I want. So. Touched off there, back out, come in 10 thou, I'm just feeding this by hand. One thing feeding it by hand, when you start to get a little bit of a build-up, you can sort of like pecking when you're drilling. It stops a bunch of swarf from getting in on the back side of your cutter and messing up your surface finish. Nobody's ever going to see it again. Like I said on the last video though, you can practice these things. Then when you need really nice surface finish, you can get it. Okay, so even when you don't need it, try for it. Taking off here is just a little bit of beach fuzz. We are at 620, 1.627. And and we're 2 thou over there, so I ain't worried about 2 thou. And I've got 629 in the bore of that yeah, so I got a couple thou clearance going in the end of the tailstock here. So yeah, right in here. Got a couple thou clearance, so we're good there. So the lathe work is done on this. So this is going to go over to the mill, but I've got a little bit of lathe work to do on the other section because there's 2 spacers that's going in this. So I'll bring you back, folks. What we got so far. And yeah, I can wobble it because I'm not screwed into anything, but I've got very little clearance there. That fits in there nicely. That fits in there nicely. We'll get over to the mill. We'll make this square. We'll drill 4 holes, and Bob's your uncle. Say hi to Bob. Okay, I've got a piece of 1.25 I think it's 1.75 or 1.25 out of brain fart here. 1.25. It's real close to the size of that, as you guys can see. Now what I want to do is I want to make the end of this look like that. I've got a 9/16 drill through there that I showed you earlier doing. And I'm just going to shoulder this end out. It's going to be 0.746. So here, and about 0.9 deep. So loosen off my poor man's DRO here. Let's see if I can get that in there for you. So, just on the end of my workpiece. And what I can do is I can come in here and I just zero it. And then count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I lock my apron. I bring this back off again. I'll find a rag, folks. Everything's getting greasy and slimy and I don't like it. Been a mechanic all my life and I don't like oil. So what I do is I set that up so it comes into contact. Unlock my apron. That's where I want to be stopping. But it comes into contact and it gives me about 54. I just read the number, I didn't pick it. But it gives me about 54 thousandths of an inch to wake up and hit the stop button. So I'll see if you guys can see that for one go here as we get started, and then I'll bring you up and you can watch me clean up the shoulder of this. 50 thou depth of cut. shade you from the light, but not getting my fingers whacked by the truck. Starts to move, I disengage. Feed it by hand into the zero. And there's that. Please hit the like and subscribe button, folks. Makes a big difference on how many other people get this video popped up on them, and by you subscribing, it lets you come back for more, and you can hit the little bell button. Oh, I'm just walking in here to my zero. Done. I'll take another 50. Yeah, you hit the little bell and it'll remind you when I put a video out. So. I'm fixed income right now with a buggered up knee or my meniscus, so I gotta go under the knife to get that fixed. Trying to keep the wolf off the doorstep. I'm trying to keep myself from going insane. There, we started at 125 and we've taken 300, so it's a working. Another 50. 2 more 50 should get me right where I need to be. I'm actually only going to take this 50 and then I'm going to get my snap gauges out and start looking at the bore on the end of the tailstock shaft. I want to get that fit real close. Okay, 863, so bring you back in a minute. Okay, I just dialed her in 45, or total of 90. And then we're going to mic this and see where we're at. Got to bring that in about 25,000, but before I do that, I am just going to clean the tip off this carbide. Not that the aluminum dulled it, it's just the aluminum welds to it. So I am just going to take a 5 thou cut and get that cleaned up nice. Now that I got that burr off of there, yeah, it's looking a lot better. Hard to measure a rough surface. I need to come in about 12 thou. Just measure my snap gauge. Yeah, half of that is 6. And I said before, you're making all these coarse cuts, and then you go from a 50 thou cut to a 5 thou cut, and your accuracy goes right out the window because you got no deflection on the 5 thou cut, and the other ones were deflecting a little bit. So you got to kind of step yourself halfway on your final cut, and then correct it from there. We're just shy of where we need to be, folks. So I'm just checking with the snap gauge. And I am reading 23.5. So that would be 7, 4, 8.5. And here I'm just a thou over, so I am just going to take the lightest cut. I'll take a 1 thou cut and it'll dig in deeper than you can imagine, and dialed in 1 thou. So 1 thou on each side, so that's a total of 2 thou. We'll see how it fits. Not that it needs to fit really, really tight with 0 clearance and all that, but like I said, it's practice. Try to get better all the time, you will get better. Alright. Break the edge here. There. I'm going to flip that around. Actually, I'm going to part it because it's 3 feet long, folks. Show you how I set up my parting blade. Okay. You can use the back side of this. See how those are flush right now? Yep, you're in frame. Those are flush right now. You can measure on the back. So I just set that in there. And I'm coming over. And I'm reading my DR, or not my DRL. I'm 3 thou over. Leave me a little bit to clean up. I will part this while you guys are watching. And I just use an Allen key to catch them. So that way I'm not trying to hold on to this or anything like that. I just stick an Allen key through the center of it and it all happens. I didn't quite drill that deep enough, but I'll get to it. Now what I got to do is I got to make this fit inside of there. So I'm just going to take a boring bar, and I didn't quite drill through the end of that. I was 1/8 of an inch shy when I was drilling. Should have drilled a little bit more, but no big deal. I just opened it up with a 7/16 because it fit my 3/8 drive drill, because my tailstock's not together right now, so I can't run my 9/16 again. But just going to grab a small boring bar and I'm going to start opening that up, and then we'll step it up to the hole we need. Just using this little gem right there. See if it'll let me in that hole. Do it in some steps to get the clearance I need. .564, and we want 3/4 of an inch. So. That is just a small carbide insert, so just going to take it some baby steps and we'll get there. That's appropriate, the size of tooling that I should be using on this lathe. Not them big monsters, but them big monsters are cheap. They're cheaper to buy the big stuff off of eBay because everybody's looking for this little stuff. Just saying, all I need is 40. So we'll take 40, see if it gets us there. There we go, folks. That was a nice fit, so. Okay, now I'm just going to drill 3 holes through it. And I'm not going to drill through it because I don't have any hardware long enough to accommodate that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill 3 holes, and then I'm going to shift it. I'm actually going to do a 6-hole bolt pattern. You'll see when I get over to the mill. So I got everything zeroed up there. Now, what I've got to do is I've got to find the radius of my bolt holes. So, got everything zeroed. And that gives me a 0.493. So 986 diameter. Now, what I want to do, folks, is I want to set up to drill bolt hole circle. Now, I'll show you this is 4mm hardware. As you can see, if I hold it back there, or if I hold it here, you can see I'm not getting through. Okay? Yeah, you can see that. Not getting through. So what I got to do is I'm going to do 3 holes here, as you see, for the threaded hole size of the 4mm by 0.7 thread pitch. And then on this side, I am going to take and I'm going to drill another one. I'm going to drill 6 holes. And the other 3 are going to be right down through. And I'm going to do them 4mm. And then I'm going to countersink the hardware that I've got to go down through. So you'll see what I'm doing as I get going. So I haven't done bullet hole circles before, so I do have to go grab my book and sit down for a minute. So I'll bring you back once I get that figured out. Okay, folks. Now I've got this set up for a 4mm hole. I figured out my bullet hole circle thing. I couldn't think and talk at the same time, and so, like I said, I used to do this with a rotary table. Now I've got the DRO, so I'm going to use it to its full extent. So this is hole number 1. I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to drill right down through it. So I'm doing a 6-hole pattern, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to pick on the odd numbers first, because this is 1, this is 3, this is 5. So 2, 4, and 6 are going to be drilled tap sides. So let's try this and see how it wants to work. I'm going to grab some aluminum. Just keep feeding that a little bit. Nervous as heck, folks, but if it doesn't work, I guess I'm not watching the Super Bowl tomorrow. Clean that off. Drilling a hole, but can it drill 6 in the right spot? We're going to find out. There's the first one. Now I gotta go hole number 2, hole number 3. All I got to do is zero my DRO, and it keeps on changing the numbers every time I go to a different hole. I'm going to do this just for a sanity check. Yep. Sorry about my hand being in your way, folks. But on to hole number 5. Keep doing this sanity check thing just. There, folks. I'm tickled pink with that right now. Now, I am looking for my 7mm end mill. And before everybody goes off the deep end, you can drill with an end mill. You can't mill with a drill truck. Now what I've got to do is I've got to figure out What I've done is I've measured how deep this hardware will go that I have. That's the longest 4mm hardware I've got, other than making a trip to the big city on Monday. But okay, so I've got to have about 900. I got 1.5, and I got to get it down to 0.9. So I got to countersink these 6/100ths of an inch. Now, what I'm doing here, I've got a number 7 end mill. I've zeroed out my Quill DRO. Bring this down. To 600. There we go. Now that did cut a slot in it, but I'm not worried about that. There's not a whole lot of pressure on this. It's pushing pressure, not sideways twisting or anything else. So now I'm going to go back to hole number 3. Still zeroed. There's 600. Back to hole number 1. This is quite easy once you get your head wrapped around it. Now when I drop I've got enough down there. So now I am going to hole number 2, but not with an end mill and not with a 4mm. Going to be tapping a 4 by 0.7. So that is a 0.1299, which when I look at my, I need 1299 and a number 30. So now I'm doing all my even holes, folks. So okay, and I am going to zero my quill. And I'm going to look at what I need for a depth here, so I'll be right. Okay, I need to go 350 deep here, so. A little bit of lube. I'm not going to try to power tap that, folks. Put the machine in neutral. I'm using the machine to center it up. And there's the first one done. I got the right drill bit. And going to number 4. I changed my drill bit. And I didn't zero my quill, so. Not gonna bore you with the rest of it. I've only got to tap this one and drill one more hole, and then I'll bring you back, folks. There's the first piece put in. 1.5 inch extension. So that there will mean that when this is in there, it's going to be 1.5 inches farther away from touching the tools that I'm putting in the other end. So, folks, I'm happy with that. I am just going to wipe it down, give it a little drink of oil, and I am actually going to shove it in the tailstock because it doesn't need to be floating around on my bench. It's round, it'll roll off, and probably do something to itself. So, then we'll continue with the other part.